Guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now I thought this would be the perfect day to talk about what to do with your reptiles when your power goes out and it's cold. For example, if your power goes out for a little bit in summer, it's not too much of a problem. And even if it goes out for an hour or two, in reality, unless your house is freezing cold, it's not going to affect your reptile too much. In today's video, I'll talk you through some things you can do to prepare for this, some things you can do during a power outage, and things not to do during a power outage. So let's start off with the latter. It's important you do not feed your reptiles when the power is out. They have no heat, especially when it's quite cold. This is because they're ectothermic and rely on heat to help digest their food, so without sufficient heat, feeding them can cause more problems. What will most likely happen is your reptile will slow down and go in a state of brumation. This is actually a great survival technique. It allows them to maintain weight, use less energy, and most importantly, survive during sudden temperature changes. Now let's look at some proactive things you can do. So things you can do now before a power outage, so if it occurs, you'll be nice and prepared. Number one, you could get a generator. Easily said than done if you're young, but this can keep the power going just for your reptiles. Or, number two, something we can all probably do, is stock up on heat pads used for transporting reptiles and fish. I actually found these fairly cheap on Swell Reptiles. I don't know how good they are, they're about 98 pence. These last about 18 hours. I've also seen some from a brand called Uniheat. They can last 30 hours, some even 70 hours, but they are quite expensive. Now, these can apparently get quite hot at first, maybe too hot for some of your reptiles, so wrap them in paper towel or cloth until they reach a safe temperature and use a thermometer to monitor that temperature. So these are the two ideal options, so if you can, stock up now. But now on to the reactive options. So you're sat there, your power goes out for hours, it may not be back on for a few days, you don't have a generator or any reptile heat pads. What can you do? Just to say, these aren't ideal, but they may get you by. So number one is leave your reptile. What I mean by this is opening and closing their tank a lot may let out heat that is retained in there. And also, say your house is 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, like your reptiles should be fine. I'm thinking more leopard geckos, crested geckos. I know there are some reptiles that really need extreme heat, but say you got a leopard gecko, crested gecko, it'll be fine. Keep going in and taking out and stuff will probably hassle it more. Number two, if they are really cold and you have a hot water bottle, if you're able to boil water over a gas stove or something, then boil that water, pop it in a hot water bottle. Once again, wrap it up until it reaches a safe temperature for your reptile, monitor it with a thermometer, and that's an option. You also want to do that for this next option, which is number three, the hand and feet warmers. So these things you get in a supermarket, you can get like 2 for £1. They're similar to the reptile heat pads but smaller and don't last quite as long, but you may have them around your house. Once again, wrap them up, make sure they're a safe temperature before giving them to your reptile. Another thing you can try is if your reptile's cage is in quite an open room, take it to a smaller room as it should generally hold heat a little better. Number five, some people have suggested using a styrofoam box, and sometimes you can get these to store food, sometimes it keeps them warm. Basically, you get one of these boxes, you put some ventilation in there, it should retain heat a bit better than a glass tank, for example, and even better if you can put like a hand warmer or a heat pad or something in there to keep it extra warm. And finally, number six, put your reptile on you. So if it isn't too cold outside of the reptile's tank, but your reptile doesn't seem to be doing too well, and you're nice and warm, you can actually heat them up on you. It's not the ideal situation, it can't last for ages. I did read a story about a guy who shared his bed with his snake to keep it warm for a power outage, which is dedication right there, but it is an option. We do produce quite a bit of heat. As I said, the last few options, they're not ideal, but if you are worried about your reptile, you have limited options. You gotta do what you gotta do. Now, I'm pretty lucky that where I live, our weather is fairly tame. The longest the power has gone out, I think in absolute years, is maybe 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and as I said, it rarely happens. But I know not everyone is as fortunate, and a lot of you guys have been experiencing some wild weather lately, so I hope this video does help. And remember, it's better to be proactive than reactive, so if you can, prepare now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. But thank you and goodbye.